So we've come to the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every week I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you the viewers to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week, based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, something pretty crazy went down in the basketball world regarding some sneaky behind-the-scenes corruption coming to light, so we definitely have plenty to discuss with that amongst others. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Alfonso, and he says that Tyrese Halliburton is the most overrated player in the NBA, and that he was never even the best player on his team when they were advancing all the way to the NBA Finals and the playoffs this year. Right away, I've got to say that I have a hunch that this person who submitted this take might be a Knicks fan, because they tend to be the saltiest ones when it comes to Tyrese Halliburton debates and conversations. Nah, I'm kidding, well, sorta, but while half of his write-up was just pure hater nonsense, I am willing to explore the idea of Halliburton becoming a bit overrated after the Pacers' run this year. For starters, the idea that Halliburton doesn't produce at an elite level is already an off-base assertion. He just isn't your prototypical leading scorer type of talent that fills it up night in and night out. He's a true point guard, who for 3 years in a row now has ranked in the top 3 of the NBA in assists per game, leading the league in that category in 2024. He's one of the best passers the NBA has to offer, bringing back a style of play that used to be the norm from the point guard position, as a selfless, pass-first floor general that keeps the offense flowing to the benefit of those around him. He's also not always going to score a lot of points game in and game out, and that's something I think a lot of casual basketball fans struggle with as a concept. Yes, the idea of the game is to outscore the opponent, but the way in which a team accomplishes that isn't always by the team's best player hogging the ball, taking the most shots. Halliburton's decision making is up there with the best playmakers in the game. His feel and understanding of how to manipulate defenders and put them in a position where easy shots can be created either for himself or a teammate is top-notch, and he's still someone who has proven he can be the guy taking and making the big shots when necessary, as demonstrated by the fact that he had like 4 game winners in the playoffs this year alone. All of the advanced metrics back these assertions up as well, because in the playoffs this season, the Pacers outscored their opponents by 5.7 points per 100 possessions with him out on the court, and then when Halliburton was on the bench, the Pacers got outscored by 9 points per 100 possessions, which is a ridiculous 14.7 point swing with him versus without him. The fact that all of his teammates play better when he's on the floor is no accident. His presence makes their lives infinitely easier. So no, Halliburton did not get carried. No, I don't believe he's overrated. If anything, I believe he's actually a bit underrated, and he deserves his flowers for coming within 1 game of winning the NBA Finals while being hobbled against a stacked Oklahoma City team led by the MVP of the league. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Joey, and he says that if the Pelicans are healthy and DeJounte Murray can assimilate better into the team, then the Pelicans will be a playoff team this year. The Pelicans were arguably the biggest disappointment in the Western Conference last season, finishing in 14th place in the standings in the conference despite making moves indicating that they were all in on playoff contention. So going into a new season, the only direction they can go from here is up. This is a team that I'm actually torn on, because I see why people could find themselves getting on board with them having a bounce back year, yet I also understand why there's so much pessimism surrounding this group. The believers will make a strong argument that last season they were just absolutely decimated by injuries, and they never got a chance to even see this group play an extended stretch together at full strength. Before Brandon Ingram was traded away, he got injured playing just 18 games on the season. Trey Murphy missed 29 games. Zion Williamson missed 52 games. DeJounte Murray missed 51 games. Herb Jones missed 62 games, and so on and so forth. You get the point. Their entire core was sitting on the sidelines most of the time, and on paper, they've got a lot of talent throughout their lineup. However, the pessimism will point to the fact that there isn't good reason to believe they can stay healthy for an entire campaign. I'm looking at you, Zion Williamson, and they're not being unreasonable for thinking that way either. I also need to point out that at this point in time, the idea of DeJounte Murray in theory has far surpassed the actuality of DeJounte Murray as a basketball player, and expecting him to make a consistently positive impact on a team hoping to win at a high level is proving to be a pipe dream. Murray was traded to Atlanta after the team had made a run to a conference finals, and then the Hawks never won a single playoff series after his arrival. He gets sent to New Orleans last season, and the team falls off a cliff. He's been vocal about how much he has hated his time in New Orleans on podcasts and in interviews, and while he made some valid points, that kind of bad attitude resonates in a locker room, and expecting a group with terrible team chemistry to succeed is just not going to happen in the NBA. In the 31 games that DeJounte Murray was healthy for last year, he also stunk up the joint, averaging about 17 points and 7 assists per game, but he did so while shooting an abysmal 39% from the field and 29% from 3. Murray is no longer the lockdown defender that he was in San Antonio. He's horribly inefficient, and he doesn't even want to be there, so even at full strength, I'm not banking on him helping turn this ship around. I want to buy into the talent that the Pelicans have because I am pretty high on players like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, for example, and I think the rookies that they just drafted will provide some exciting moments in spurts, but the West is simply way too loaded for me to think that they have a chance of finishing in the top 8. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Ross, and while he gave a massive write-up here, I'll be focusing on the last paragraph where he goes into his suggestion for how Kawhi Leonard should be punished, where he says that Kawhi should have his contract voided, he should be suspended for a year, he should be fined, and the Clippers should lose their next available first-round pick. So the big news of the week was an investigation done by sports reporter Pablo Torre, where he did a deep dive into some of the nefarious behind-the-scenes collaborations between the Clippers organization and a former sponsor called Aspiration. Allegedly, Kawhi was paid millions of dollars by the group without ever having to actually promote them in any way, and due to the company's close ties with Clippers owner Steve Ballmer, and a document exposing the fact that Kawhi's LLC was being paid individually from them, it's not looking good for either party at the moment. Circumnavigating the salary cap is a massive breach in the fairness of the game, and basketball fans everywhere want justice. Of course, the Clippers are denying everything and have put out a statement rebuking these claims, so this is going to be an ongoing situation for a while before anything actually happens, but if they actually did try to circumnavigate the cap and find a way to pay Kawhi Leonard under the table, then I can't say that I disagree with any of the punishments that Ross laid out in his take. The problem with this, though, is that this may end up opening Pandora's box, because I'd be willing to bet my life that things like this happen a hell of a lot more often behind the scenes than the NBA world and most fans realize. For example, reporter Pablo Torre has even said that the next situation he's going to investigate is Jalen Brunson on the Knicks and the pay cut he took with the team, and would anybody really be surprised if Brunson was making millions on the back end from some made-up sponsorship deals that don't catch the eye of the public? These guys probably have opportunities presented to them like this on a weekly, if not daily basis, and Kawhi goes down, then I have a hard time believing he would be the only one to go down with the ship. It's frustrating as a fan to see things like this because unfair advantages like this seem to get swept under the rug more than ever, and corruption that's right in front of our eyes gets off scot-free, but it's just the reality of the big league entertainment, unfortunately. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Tuck, and he says that the Denver Nuggets will break the NBA single-season wins record this year because they now have a talented enough core around Nikola Jokic to survive the minutes when Jokic is not on the court. The Nuggets addressed a lot of their weaknesses this offseason and absolutely deserve to be viewed as one of the favorites to go all the way this season, but there's a difference between being one of many title contenders and being a team so head and shoulders above the rest of the pack that you make history. Of course, having Nikola Jokic already gives them a head start as one of the greatest offensive forces the league has ever seen, and now they've actually got some depth for the first time in a while. Cam Johnson replaces Michael Porter Jr. as an equally dangerous shooter who actually embraces a team-first mindset. Bruce Brown is back hoping to regain the form that he had when he helped the Nuggets win the finals back in 2023. Tim Hardaway Jr. gives this team another shooter off the bench to give some good minutes in spurts, and Jonas Valanciunas is probably the best backup center that Nikola Jokic has ever had. With the Kings last season, the team actually performed 2.4 points better with Valanciunas on the court, so having a player that can genuinely keep things afloat when Jokic is on the bench is definitely trouble for the opposition now, because in the past, the Nuggets would often lose leads quickly during Jokic's rest. All of this can be true, and it still doesn't mean that the Nuggets will sniff 74 wins in the regular season. When they won the title in 2023 as the 1 seed, they only won 53 games, and the Thunder last season only got to 68 wins on the year despite steamrolling most of the regular season. The West has only gotten stronger this summer too, so even in a world where everything goes right for Denver, I still put them at about the 65 win range, which is an outstanding year in its own right. It's just not breaking the record, which is fine. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.